League of People, a server of 300 that proved that server factions can be really successful and become its own community. But how did it come to be? How did the server come to become what it is? Well, before that, we're gonna have to go back to before the server was even created. It all begins with a guy by the name of UAR with a /emoticon. Unique. He was your average member in the oversimplified server, until one day, he got the idea to create a new one. This server was to become known as League of People. Yours truly. And it had an Obama PFP. This server was, at the start, supposed to be a faction of oversimplified that was more free in the mind of UAR. UAR was working on this server every single day, working to improve it, make it more fun. Though, UAR had spent a bunch of time on the oversimplified server and started adopting nearly all the aspects of it. Because of this, he had the mindset of modding like a regular oversimplified mod, and so the server was really too strict considering its size, and would bite UAR's ass in the near future. UAR was chilling on the oversimplified server as usual, talking to people and having fun like any regular old chap. But all of a sudden, things started to get serious when some members on the server, Katie and Hella, started an argument. This argument was admittedly quite petty, and, in the end, unimportant. Shortly after this whole ordeal, UAR got into another argument, this time with one of the mods. Safe to say, this argument was his last. He had enough of arguing and decided to leave the server. This garnered a bunch of reactions, most of them criticizing him for his decision, but UAR didn't care and left nonetheless. So based on my fucking god. Now he could focus entirely on the server and nothing else. On the 7th of July 2022, League of People would see the first ever mod applications held on the server. These applications were messy. UAR had no experience making Google Forms before, and so he had to completely rely on Velvel, a trusted chief mod, to make the applications for him. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of debates, and in the end, 4 people were elected to the League of People mod team. Those people were Iconish, Froggy, Omran, and Simo, later known as Webster. The first month of League of People was nothing like the League of People today. It was strict, too serious, and for no good reason. The server was basically a replica of Oversimplified. The rules were identical, there were channels named after and put in the same format as Oversimplified, and many of the members from Oversimplified were there. Though, this would soon change, as one of the very first and most active members, WBP, had finally had enough and left. This was a big blow. WBP sent a long list of demands to UAR, and these terms would persuade him to come back. UAR finally agreed to change the rules and make them less strict. Afterwards, WBP would come back to the server shortly after the whole situation, and the server would begin progressing and heading in the right direction. At this point, League of People was doing great. It was extremely active, there was nothing left for UAR to fix anymore. Safe to say, the server was complete, but just because everything is in place, doesn't mean that all your members will behave. We can see that in what happened on the 9th of August 2022, and on that day, a certain user by the name of Slav, a very active member at the time, was being accused of having a crush on Frog. Man, if that's actually true, he has some low-ass standards. Another active user. This got so bad that Slav eventually left the server. Shortly after this, Frog, Varader, and Sad got into an argument with Velvel, a chief moderator on the server. UAR, seeing the argument, started to panic, and so he locked the channel. Not once, but twice, trying to calm everyone down. But that would prove so ineffective. that Frog, Beretta, and Sard left the server shortly after due to UAR's failures to fix the issue. Shortly after that, 2 more people left. These 5 were among the most active users on the server. This would strike a hard blow on League of People's server activity for a while. In protest of UAR, Cons, a trainee moderator on League of People, made a new server for those that left. This server was to be known as Yellow Guy Incorporated. Although this server came out from the Great Departure, it was more intended as a shitpost rather than a serious server with definitive rules. So, pretty much everyone they didn't like was banned, and pretty much everything they liked was made mod. UAR came to visit the server to see what it was about, maybe even entirely abandoned League of People, and when he saw it, it was pretty shit. Pretty wacky, to say the least. People would often say slurs, there was an NSFW channel, and there were power abusers left and right. So overall, the server was pretty backwards. UAR was then muted for absolutely no reason for 7 days, and then the people held a poll to get him banned. They voted yes, so UAR was banned from the server. He then decided, screw it, we don't need these guys, we'll continue working on League of People and try to make it thrive. After the Great Departure, a certain user by the name of Slugs replaced Frog as mod. UAR was just chilling on the server playing Roblox with a bunch of his friends until suddenly Rennie and Andre, 2 oversimplified mods, came into the server to check it out. Around the same time, Rody and Jack, 2 oversimplified members, started coming in and spamming the chat with cringe memes. I'm not sure if I can mention this, but This event caused UAR to ban Rody and mute Jack for spam. Rennie and Andre saw this and actually felt kinda bad. Back on the oversimplified server, Rennie was discussing how UAR coming back would be the worst day in oversimplified history. People then told him about the server named League of People. Out of curiosity, Rennie and Andre decided to check it out. After seeing what happened on the server though, Rennie felt kinda bad for shitting on UAR, and so he told them if he joins back, he would be welcomed besides the minor few. UAR saw this and seriously considered joining back. Then he went into WBP's DMs and asked him if he should do it. WBP said yes and proceeded to send him an invite. And so, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, UAR was back in. Everyone welcomed him back, but most people didn't really care, and some people like Katie tried to intentionally provoke him and annoy him for coming back by changing her name and profile to the United Trans Republic. UAR tried to be the bigger person and just ignored them. Overall, UAR's decision to come back was a good one, as it introduced more members of Oversimplified to League of People. UAR was just chilling on the server when all of a sudden he realized that an OG user, Vex, had randomly left. UAR tried asking him about it and Vex just replied with, "Bad day." UAR asked him if he's gonna join back and Vex replied with, "Probably not." UAR decided to investigate the issue a little bit more and saw that Vex said that UAR had forgotten his old friends. UAR decided to ask him about this, but Vex wouldn't tell. Vex also said that he would only come back to the server if the leveling system was either reduced or abolished. Now you may be asking, what is this leveling system? Well, it was designed by UAR that granted users embed perms at level 25 and image perms at level 50. This was annoying to say the least, but the person that had the biggest problem with it was Vex. UAR wouldn't budge though, and would keep the system for a while, but then more and more people started asking for the system to be removed, and so UAR finally decided to abolish the leveling system, and now everyone gets image perms and embed perms without needing to do anything. After UAR told Vex about these changes, Vex would thank UAR, but would not immediately come back until after a few weeks. But in the end, he did come back, and from that point on, the server would continue to liberalize new techniques that weren't about what UAR wanted, but rather what the people wanted. Now it's time for the second mod applications. These are the mod applications that finalize the process of liberalization and defined it as a separate and unique community from the oversimplified server. Now with these mod applications, UAR decided to figure out Google Forms on his own this time, and didn't ask for help from his chief moderator Velvel. Now, UAR could form his own questions and ideas for how many points each question should be. Eventually, after 5 days, the new mods came in. These mods were Corndog, Sneg, Brax, and WBP. WBP and Corndog became more and more important characters as the story progresses, and especially WBP, a character that led the way to distancing from the oversimplified server and made sure that League of People became its own independent community. It was a lovely day in the League of People server, but they all felt something was missing. Someone who hasn't been in chat for a little bit. Oh, that's right, it's our leader, UAR. Where is he? What happened to him? No one really knew at the time, but UAR has been gone for a whole week and nobody knew why. And so, because of this, the server activity went through a recession. UAR had been the most active member on the server by far. Nobody even came close. But an equally important question would come up now. Who will lead us for now? Was it going to be Velvel, the chief moderator? Yeah, but Velvel couldn't lead the server alone. Instead, they were going to need the help of 2 other people. Those 2 were Webster and WBP. Throughout UAR's absence, they would ping and try to do events to keep the chat alive while UAR was gone. Even with UAR's absence, the server at least saw some activity thanks to them, and wasn't completely dead. However, there would be one definitive moment throughout UAR's absence that would solidify WBP and Webster as leaders of the server, for now at least Webster. A certain moderator, Braxton, had made a comment joking about how he was going to raid the oversimplified Discord server. It was an obvious joke and he was never going to do it. However, Rennie and Andre were still on the server at the time and saw it. They demanded that the user face consequences or they would ban everyone involved for raid threats. WBP and Webster took this as going too far and made the decision to ban Rennie from the server for cross-moderation. Rennie reported the issue to OS mods, and a discussion behind closed doors with the OS staff team began, the conclusion of which was rather inconclusive, resulting in no action being taken by OS, and Rennie being unbanned from League of People. After this whole debacle, UAR finally came back from his 1-week hiatus, and the server came back to its feet. It all started with an oversimplified mod by the name of Valk. Valk came into League of People to check the server out and see what it was about. While he was in chat, UAR was complaining about a certain member on the oversimplified server by the name of Toaster. He said that he was pissed at Toaster because of certain remarks he made about Arabs and Islam. All the details can be seen right here. Valk saw this and decided to report to the other mods what Toaster had said. UAR continued to comment about this and eventually more and more people saw it, including a mod by the name of Webster. Webster saw all this and decided to form a group chat. This group chat was to be called Operation Simplified. Oh boy, this was a huge mistake. This operation had the aim of reporting Toaster's account to try and get them banned. Webster invited UAR to the group chat, though he was a little bit apprehensive about the whole thing. He just decided to watch how the operation would play out. He also decided to invite other people to see how they can help, but as UAR was asking Wardo to do so in DMs, he suddenly got a ping. This ping had the words Toaster and ban. UAR immediately went to see what was going on in the oversimplified server, and what he saw shocked him. Toaster was banned from the oversimplified server for his remarks. You may think that this is the end, but this is far from it. In fact, it's just the beginning of what's about to come up. UAR got muted for 3 days on the oversimplified server for sending this. This pissed him off as he was being accused of anti-Semitism by the mods. Jack, an older member on the League of People server that participated in the raid on League of People and eventually left, went into UAR's DMs. He told them that he actually feels quite bad for UAR getting muted, and how he also feels that it's unfair. Jack then proceeds to ask UAR to resend him an invite to League of People. Jack then says how he was also muted for 3 days for making jokes, and how a new girl on the server, Layla, was being harassed immediately after she joined. He then said that he left the server for now. UAR decided to also leave the server after his appeal for his mute was rejected. In the meantime, he had fun with his members, and all the new users that came in after he was muted, though this was only the calm before the storm. UAR was still outside of the server at the time, not really caring about what was happening on Oversimplified, until suddenly, Webster got this message. Shortly after, UAR received this message from Gabe. Since UAR wasn't on the server, Dino didn't send a message in his DMs, and so UAR decided to test if he was banned or not with WBP, and yeah. UAR had so many questions on his mind at the time. Why did Toaster get unbanned? Why did UAR get banned? What made the mods come to this conclusion? Well, the answer was Scottish Meatball. Scottish Meatball is an interesting character in our story. He is a former League of People member that tried to backstab all of us, and got a decent chunk of us banned from the server. But how did he do this? How did League of People even find out? Well, it starts with Frode. She went into UAR's DMs and sent him this. Turns out, Scottish Meatball had fabricated some of the information provided and decided to report it to the mods. The mods, without asking any questions to UAR or any of the people involved in the operation, and decided to immediately ban everyone and unban Toaster. A complete smack in the face for League of People. Which is why Scottish Meatball is pretty hated here today. Shortly after, UAR confronted him about this on the server and he proceeded to leave. Now, what was Scott's reasoning for this? Well, he said that Toaster was being wronged and that he had to defend, which is not true. Why would he suddenly decide to break ties with a server that he previously had good relations with, just to save one person that said some really fucked up things? Instead, it's widely believed that the reason he did it was because he got into an argument with UAR over political issues, since he only decided to report this to the mods after the argument. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done anything, most people feel. Now, you may be wondering, what happened to Toaster after this? Well, back on the Oversimplified server, he was put on probation, which means that for the next 75 days, if he broke any rules at one time, he will be banned permanently this time. They also introduced a 3-strike system on the server. If anyone gets 3 mutes after that, they will immediately get banned. No final warnings or anything of the sort. Shortly after a certain person named Katie received mod on Oversimplified, a lot of people got pissed. They were not very liked at all in the eyes of many Oversimplified members. One of these members was Gabe. Immediately after they were chosen as mod, Gabe left the server. He couldn't stand Katie, and making them mod was the final straw for him, and so he left. The mods would respond by mocking Gabe and calling him petty for his decision, in which Dave, a former OS mod, and a bunch of others decided to defend Gabe. But Gabe wasn't the only member that got upset. Sard, a member who previously left League of People and came back, was so pissed at the server that he decided to get himself banned. He did this by saying, well, yeah, let's not talk about it. Then, shortly after, Bengali Soldier also got himself banned. He did this by pinging all the admins in the server, and when he got muted, he went into one of the mods' DMs and called them a pedo. Then, shortly after these two got themselves banned, a bunch of people, namely Layla, Noprope, Omran, and Arl. This caused chat activity to decrease substantially, but had the opposite effect on League of People's activity, causing it to soar. On the morning of the 1st October, a very special user joins the server. This user was Shark Side of the Moon, the new head admin of Oversimplified. After Retroity, the previous head admin, retired, he pretty much became the owner of the server. So he set out to manage the server and its affairs. In his head, he thought of this one server that was insulting his mods and harboring members that left. He was thinking of League of People. And so, when he went into the server to negotiate with UAR and his mods, he wanted this to be a civil discussion, and so UAR agreed. He threatened that if the server further attacks him or the mods, he will report it to Discord. And now was discussion time.
My first problem with the OS server is that it's too strict. One of the most strict rules, for example, being the language rule. One time, I was just teaching Omran how to spell a word in Arabic. In response, one of the mods started deleting my messages whenever I posted them and then threatened to warn me for it.
Shark responded with, "That was just a warning in order for a full discussion in this language to not occur." He also said that he doesn't know much about this incident, and the mods that did mute him were probably just new and inexperienced. UAR understood this and moved on to the next point.
My second problem is one that really pains me. It's the sticker rule. Now, my complaints about this rule is your reasoning to implement it. One of your reasons is that members can spam them, which is a claim that I have an issue with, because your server also has stickers. Members are much more likely to spam those than the external stickers, since everyone has access to them. Your second reasoning was for NSFW content within those images. Personally, I found those types of stickers to be quite rare, and I barely have ever seen them. Also, the fact that you can just mute the people who do it, since it's so rare, and since you also mute people who post porn in media or memes.
Shark responded by saying that since media and memes are much more heavily moderated than general, it is a risk to take, and removing external stickers is a small price to pay. He also mentioned that the mods have a ton of work to deal with, and not having to deal with NSFW stickers is one less thing for the mod team to worry about. He also says that NSFW stickers are more common than he thinks, and that he has personally seen 5 in his time on the server, though he also adds that it's just what he saw, and not what the rest of the mod team has seen. UIR then decided to drop this point, now to the third point. The decision carried out by the staff team to ban Toaster, unban him, and then UIR and the others. Shark says that although he doesn't agree with anything Toaster said, and he does believe that it's extremely wrong and racist, he also said that the mod team doesn't do cross-server moderation. He gave an example with WBP saying the F slur one time on Yellow Guy. He didn't ban or mute him for this because it wasn't on the server. And then for the final point.
So, I heard about the whole Katie thing. I'm not too educated on the situation, if I'm being honest, but may I understand why you decided to ban Frog, who was the alleged victim in the situation?
Basically, for context, Katie was a modern oversimplified that had pedophilia accusations against her by a member named Frog. Shark then responded saying that the staff team did examine everything that was alleged against Katie, and Katie did provide every piece of evidence that she could find to defend herself. The staff team then came to the conclusion that although what Katie said was wrong, it wasn't downright pedophilia, and so Katie was allowed to stay unpunished for what she did. In the case of Frog though, she wasn't completely honest about the situation. She even made up some stuff to incriminate her and get her banned. This did not go down well with the mods, and so Frog was also banned from the server. UAR understood this and repeated that he isn't very educated about this situation. And now, finally, Shark asks, "Do any of you want to be unbanned?" UAR responded with, "No." His reasoning for this was that literally all of his friends on the server either left or were banned. So trying to come back to it was just pointless, and it would just bring him back to a place where there were a lot of people that hate him. So everyone got what they wanted from this discussion. Shark said he won't report the server, and UIR and his mods agreed to stop insulting the oversimplified mods. But as much as this may seem like the end, stories from the server keep popping up. After the drama on Oversimplified, League of People was filled with new and extremely active members, and so it is time to assign new mods. The results were Bengali Soldier, Master Chief, Ope, Shino, Slugs, and me, Corndog. Corndog got promoted to Chief Moderator, and Cons was given mod again after being suspended from mod for a whole month.
Okay boys, you are here. Anyway, that is it for part 1 of the history of League of People. Please remember to not harass anyone mentioned in this video. This was purely made for entertainment. Like, subscribe, and comment if you want, and don't forget to join LOP.